Cosmin, good to see you. Thanks for making a bit of time to come and have a chat with me. I appreciate that
Nice to
you've got
see you.
101. I appreciate you've got lots of other things to be doing at the moment. So I thank you for
Thank you.
coming to talk to us. I want to open by asking you about a conversation we were having a little while ago. You were basically suggesting that Donald Trump undermining NATO has really helped you build your business. I mean, why do you say that? Tell us about what's happening in that kind of defense world. It's not a world I'm particularly
Mm.
familiar with. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So what I've seen is that it was impossible, almost impossible as an entrepreneur, as a startup in defense to actually start growing and building products until this happened. Yeah. So because everybody said, well, if you're not a big American company, or if you're not, I don't know, Lockheed Martin or Boeing or Airbus, you're not gonna do it. And then when the US started to say, okay, let's do our own stuff, let's focus on our own business, and let's just keep the European doing
Yeah.
whatever they can to survive. And this is what actually boosted this. I call it a bubble because we don't know how long it will take. We don't know exactly how it will evolve. But right now, a lot of investors who are never in the defense, they are also pivoting. And I've seen this from the US investors to European investors. We even see banks like the Deutsche Bank. Okay, they are also investing a lot. They are also putting money into this. So it's an interesting opportunity for everyone. We need to build our European capabilities. We need to provide as many options as we can for the
Yeah.
for the European
And
defense.
and
That's
you've
it.
got a particularly big ambition. Why don't you tell
Hmm.
us about what you're trying to do?
Okay, so I would say um, what we are trying to do is to build the biggest capability uh, for the air defense. That means we are building an autonomous fighter jet uh, who is gonna that's gonna sit between normal fighter jets with pilots and the rest of the capabilities that we see today, like all kind of drones, different size, different
Yeah.
speeds. So we are in this gap where nothing exists so far.
And let me ask you about that, because I mean, I never woke up one morning and thought, I'm going to build a fighter jet. I mean, just tell me where the idea came from. I mean, I think it's a brilliant idea. And I mean, I don't know much about defense, but I can see the gap that you're looking to fill. I mean, where did the idea come from?
Well, I would say, I come from software, from deep tech, and in my country, in Romania, we had a lot of heritage on the fighter jet.
Mhm.
Okay, so it was easy for me to think big. Okay, I said, I'm not. This is my first venture in the defense world. Um, why not just do it bigger and build something that doesn't exist yet? Okay, because I saw this opportunity. You've seen, we've discussed about this. You've seen drones coming from Ukraine, from Russia into European territory, and no matter what kind of defense we have, in the end we send fighter jets to do something. Okay, just destroy the drone, or escort it, or whatever. These things can be done by our aircraft, by the Strigoi. You don't need to train pilots for this. You don't need to put their lives in danger. You can just, push a button and send someone that is as capable as a fighter jet. That was the idea. That's how we started. And in many ways, for us, it feels easier to build a fighter jet than a a lower drone, for example.
Yeah. So let me just, for the people that don't haven't seen what you're doing. I mean, just explain what you mean by an autonomous fighter jet. I mean, for example, I mean,
Mhm.
how big is it? Is it as big as a regular fighter jet? I mean,
Yeah.
and how does the autonomous bit play out? I mean, obviously,
Mm.
I don't want you to share anything commercially sensitive.
Yeah.
Just give us a flavor of what the thing is.
Yeah. So think about the Strigoi as big as a fighter jet. Let's take in comparison, we're not talking about the big guys like the F-35. We're talking about agile fighter jets like the Gripen E, the Rafale, and so on. And we are around 12, 13 meters long, and the Rafale or a Gripen A is like 15 meters.
They're still fairly
Okay.
big.
Yeah, and we're talking about maximum takeoff weight of 7 tons with a payload of roughly 2 tons. So this is really big. It can carry a lot of things. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we are building.
Okay. And how did you get onto this path? I mean, we'll come back to where you're going in a second, but I
Mm.
mean, how did you end up coming up with an idea to build a fighter jet, an autonomous fighter jet? I mean, what led you to that point, if you see?
um, Seeing that whatever threat comes, in my idea, whatever I know, little things I know about the art of war, for example, in my mind, it was very clear you need to go there fast. You need to intercept that or you need to attack it. Whatever you need to do, it has to happen super fast. You cannot do that with artillery. You cannot do that with smaller drones that are flying with 100 kilometers. And what happens if this is not a drone but is another fighter jet? Okay, it takes a lot of time to scramble fighter jets, to put the pilots, to put the mission, and just send them out in the danger. So the easiest way was, let's build a fighter jet that can go as fast as a normal fighter jet, and maybe we don't need to put the pilot at risk at all for that specific element. You just send the fighter jet, you just send the Strigoi, we see what happens. If something goes bad, you always have the fighter jets to come back and finish the job. But the idea was the first line of defense should be something as capable as a fighter jet.
Yeah. And how did you,
And
I mean, how did you know about that world? I mean, do you come from a military background? I mean, you have quite a lot of knowledge of that world. I mean, it's not something I would have had. I mean, where does that knowledge come from?
partly from, of course, from the background, the family, but on the other hand, a lot of research that we had to do. And the research, when I mean research, is not like scouting the web. It was basically talking with military, talking with different generals, with different arms, basically, different generals in different segments. And then all this knowledge was packed into how do we build this, how do we make it you know autonomous, how we secure this, because the whole story with the autonomy is everybody's going to ask who is responsible. It's very clear, the guy that clicks and sends this into a mission is responsible, so you always have a human responsible for that.
Yeah. And what would you say? I mean, just to give us a flavor of where you're going, I mean, what are you building towards? I know you're not quite there yet, but just give us a sense of where you're going with this.
I would say, um, imagine a situation where you have several of these devices ready at any moment. Okay, they're just sitting there like, I don't know, like a bag of peanuts, whatever. You don't need to train them. You don't need to do anything like you do with a normal pilot. Okay, they are just sitting in the garage, ready anytime. And then the idea was something happens, you have all these systems that collaborate right now. You have the ground radars, you have the early warning systems. All these things can directly send information to a, let's say, to a control center, and the control center decides, okay, we're just gonna send 5 Strigoi, and these guys just automatically go complete the mission without any connection. The idea would be that our aircraft should go there and should be able to finish the mission without relying on connectivity, which is something that everyone depends on today. Okay, for us, the connectivity is more like a nice to have, and it's a way, of course, to send back information to the control center, but is not blocking us from from completing our mission. That's where we want to be. Yeah, and of course, we have a lot of steps to go there. It's easy to use a software. If you think today already most of the aircraft that we see, like the civilian ones, they are already doing automated takeoff, automated landing. It's not like we are reinventing the wheel, but what happens in the mission, the envelope, how it stays safe, how it protects the civilians, all these things are rules that we have to enforce and make sure it stays like that no matter what.
Yeah.
So there are many steps.
And when we were talking, you talk. I mean, the thing that struck me was that you had a sort of a passion is perhaps too strong a word, but you were very keen to use this technology to help, if you like, NATO and Europe keep Russia at bay. I mean, is that as it were the mission here?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we realized immediately when we started working on this that this is not a job for one company. Okay, the kind of the kind the mission, the profile of the aircraft, everything was almost similar to what we know from the Eurofighter Typhoon. You have several companies bringing their knowledge and so on. So from the start, we said, okay, this is not going to be just a Romanian product. This is not going to be just a Romanian company. So we have talent from everywhere. We have knowledge from everywhere. And the idea was this should be available for all our allies, of course. So that's how we build it. To be realistic, you're not going to see, for example, France or even Romania buying a product that is not NATO compatible, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, with everything from communication to ammunition to whatever. So we had to think like this from the beginning.
And I know it's a long journey. Where have you got to so far? I mean, just give us an indication of how far along that journey you are. You've made pretty good progress, I think, from my recollection from
Yeah.
when we spoke.
So we are done with all our computer work. We wanted to. It's not something new. A lot of other companies are doing this, but we wanted to do a lot of software work, a lot of computer work, simulation, trainings, analytics, whatever. We want to do all these things before doing the first real fuselage, before doing the first real flight. And we finished that. And now we are preparing to basically build what we call the Iron Bird, the fuselage, the cage of the aircraft. And then hopefully we start doing some software in the loop, hardware in the loop, where we connect all these subsystems to our existing software. Our software, by the way, is split in two parts. You have the control center, what we see as the users. Okay, as you imagine, you have a military operating this from the ground, and the other part is what lives inside the brain of the aircraft. And that's actually the most important thing that we are focusing right now. The interface is easy, the controls are easy, but how do we make this fly, uh, achieve the mission, and get back? And I would say right now I feel we are exactly in the middle of the whole process.
Right.
Once we finish building the first fuselage, then the whole systems, this whole package will start to produce faster results compared to what we've seen today, just uh, software simulation, and a lot of programming and a lot of code.
And how have potential customers, which I presume are the military, I mean, how have
Yeah.
potential customers reacted to this? Have you had many conversations with them about that? I mean, what's their
W-
take on it?
we had several conversations with different countries in Europe. Especially, obviously, we approached all the eastern flank,
Mm.
and we discussed with them. They are all interested in this capability, and I would say, the feedback was very clear. It was very good for us, but showed us that we have a lot of work to do. So the feedback was, we like it. We want to play with it. We want to test it.
Yeah.
So that means get back to work and and push forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's good to have that they recognize the value of the product potentially, isn't it?
Yeah. It's as a founder, as a CEO, in any business, the earlier you go and talk to a client, to a customer, the better
Yeah.
your product would be, or at least you have a product market fit. So this is something that we are trying to do from the very, very early days.
Yeah. And just, I mean, in broad terms, do you have a sense of how much it's going to cost to build this thing?
Well, to build it, if you just estimate, like a shopping list, what we have right now on the in our Excel files, you would probably talk about several millions, maybe like minimum 6 million, just to start having a shape and something functional. And then, of course, you put exactly as we know from the automotive industry, optionals. Okay, extra features. You want this
Mm.
kind of radar. You want this kind of functionality. So you keep adding and adding
And
more
then you've
things.
got to, and
Or
then if people start buying them, you've got to build the things at scale, which means a manufacturing capability, doesn't it?
for manufacturing, we've already designed it to be easy uh, for localization. So, for example, you can sell this in Canada. You can sell it and produce it in Canada, in France, in Italy. It's
Right.
easy. You don't need The idea is you don't need a huge assemble, you don't need a huge factory, a huge facility for that. Um, what people mostly don't know about fighter jets is that these things are not built like an automotive. You have millions of robots doing things. No, this is still manual work. You have a small team of 10 people, 15 people working, for example, on something like a Gripen A from sub. Okay, so that's how it goes. You don't have 50 robots or 500 people working on a fuselage.
Right.
So yeah, it can be easily localized. The kind of, how do you say, the technical knowledge transfer is not difficult to do, and we've considered that from the start, because obviously if something bad happens, the big facilities are the one that will be targeted from day one. So all these factories where you are supposedly building fighter jets are going to be targeted. So in our case, we needed to be nimble, to be
Yeah.
super small in terms of scale.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
impressive ambition. I mean, and for everybody in Europe, I hope it's a success. Let me ask you about being the CEO. I mean, what is it? I mean, eh, we're, if you like, living in the age of AI, and I'm sure AI has a
Yeah.
big role to play in what you're doing. I mean, what does it mean to be a decision maker in the age of AI? I mean, how has that affected the way you make decisions about doing what you're doing?
Well, we don't rely on AI to do, let's say, all kind of decisions for us. However, we use it to speed up a lot of work.
Mhm.
We use it to work with huge amounts of data, obviously. And we use it, again, obviously, on our software stack. Whatever lives inside the aircraft obviously runs on AI. But I would say this revolution that we are living right now gave us an advantage that we didn't have maybe even 1 year or 2 years ago. It was super difficult. If 2 years ago I wanted to start this would happen. Someone in the team would say, we need 200 million euro and we need 200 people just to get started.
Mm.
We need, I don't know how many engineers to software engineers to build this, to do that. So now things are easier, they are faster, but I think the new skill that we need to learn is knowing how to create this. I call it documentation, but call it what you wanted. How to create this documentation in asking the AI what you want. Okay, you just don't go, you don't go on ChatGPT and say, build me an aircraft
Well, it
or
doesn't
build
work
me a
that way, does
website.
it? No.
Yeah. So all this information, all this knowledge that this is a skill, knowing how to create the information in order to ask the AI something. So this is the next skill that I see it will become critical, and it's already critical. Companies that are using AI successfully, they are mastering this as the idea.
And
And
is that how you're approaching this?
yes, imagine even for simulations, okay, for software simulation, or as an example, we have our control platform where whatever the aircraft learns, it will apply in a virtual world. For example, we simulate some attacks, some threats, and the aircraft needs to intercept and destroy them, for example. And just to build this interface, we created a lot of documentation, a lot of um, structured documentation that we feed in order to help us speed up all this. So it's part of our, if you want, daily job. When you start doing the task every day, definitely you need to also create this kind of documentation, and it's critical. Like I said, it helped us a lot, but it can become a problem if you don't know how to do this and you're just expecting the AI to give you whatever results. Is not going to happen. You're going to get very, very wrong
Yeah.
decisions
I mean,
if
let
you
me
follow
ask you
that.
about that because that's a really interesting point you've made there. I mean, what you're saying is that you're building this, but there's no, if you like, right answer. I mean, there are multiple ways of doing what you're trying to do, aren't there? How do you make decisions in that context when there is no one right way? You're not following somebody else's playbook. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you approach making decisions in that context? It must be much more complex because there's multiple ways you can go, some of which will work, some of which might not.
this is the this is actually the place where having a multi-cultural and multi functional team
Hmm.
brings the results. So we have, for example, just to mention a few, we have doctors in supersonic aerodynamics. We have a lot of experts from different fields, and whenever something doesn't feel right, we go and consult and we brainstorm and we try to make the right decision. So it's not easy, but if you have the right flavors in your team, then it's going to be easy to move on. And whenever, of course, we are not happy with what happened, like the results or our ideas, we can always go and try and consult with directly with the military, for example, and say, ask them, what would you do in this situation, or what's the worst outcome that could happen. Yeah, because you don't know everything. We have to assume we don't know all the scenarios, all the cases. So in I prefer to do a lot of groundwork, to do a lot of research, to do a lot of um, branch out for these situations, and then we go and then we simulate, for example, and we see the outcome. So um, decision making is, especially on the product, it's something that has to be multidisciplinary. It's, ultimately I am responsible for building this, and I am responsible for how it behaves, how it works, how good it is. But in the end, it's the result of the whole team. Everybody brings their contribution to this because it's uh, really something that we're not doing this on a, for 20 years. We happen to be here now, and we need to put together all our minds to
And
create this.
what is it? What would you say, or rather, how does your background and your identity affect the way you've approached that decision making? I mean, it sounds to me like you've got a fairly collaborative approach. I mean, does that
Mhm.
come from your background, or is that simply about the needs of the situation?
I would say it's both. For the last 15, 20 years, I've been building businesses and teams mostly remote. Okay, so when you're doing this, it means you need a lot of routines, a lot of structure, and you need to know how to collaborate. And this is how I came up to be the entrepreneur that I am today. And I trust everyone in the team until obviously they prove you wrong, for example. Yeah, but I trust everyone. I don't work with tasks like, okay, you have to do this, you have to do this. We work a little bit different. Like, we work from deliverables, like we need to accomplish this, and then the team splits that into tasks, and they decide what they work on, and they decide when they deliver this. But it's a mutual trust that we have. I don't come to you and I don't tell you this task should be done in 5 hours.
Mm.
Okay, but on the other hand, you're not telling me this is gonna be done in 5 weeks when it's maybe just 3 days of work. Yeah, so uh, this is the kind
It
of
kind of sounds
collaboration
like
that
it's
we
an
have.
ongoing negotiation with people to get stuff done.
Yeah, yeah, but this happens in any business, in any sector. Some are successful, some are not. But again, this creates a lot of churn in your team because you're gonna have most people are used to having a list of tasks and a list of let's say due dates. Okay, and you just stay there and try to do your work. And we treat all this different because this is a new domain. It's something entirely new for us, so we're not going to do it like that. And we might have 20 people joining us today, and maybe in 1 month they leave just because they cannot cope with this way of working. It's very stressful, and I'm not going to ask anyone every day, What are you working on? What's the status? We have a tool, we have a software. You go there, you put your updates, and everybody's in sync. Of course, we talk every week, we talk every day, but that's different. Yeah, I don't need to ask you. I don't want to do micromanaging on building an aircraft.
My guess is you've got people that are self-starters. You've recruited people that just get on with things.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is by luck. So you sorry, you recruit 10 people, 15 people, and then you end up with three who are just like this. And then you recruit more and you repeat the process because you it's difficult. It's not something that everyone can do. It's not a typical job. Even if I would be in a typical business, in a typical job, I would still do it because that allows us to be more creative. Everybody expects you, the CEO, for example, to be responsible for everything, but you're not necessarily the smartest person in that team. Okay. So if they just expect me to give them work, we're not going to have a good product. We're not going to have a good business. So in my case, it's just we are a team, and this team is a high performance team, and we all need to push forward.
Yeah. Now, let me pick up the point that you just made about not necessarily being the smartest person in the team. Have you ever felt at any point that the business is going beyond your expertise?
With the Strigoi, yeah. In the past, no, because I've stayed in a software, I'm doing software, so for me it wasn't uh, it wasn't something difficult, yeah. Uh, but here with Kalkan and with Strigoi, I feel many times that there are certain areas that I I don't cover. I'm not familiar with them, no matter how much research I do, how much I try to learn every day. And this is where you need to rely on someone smarter than you. Okay.
Mhm.
And mm, again, in our case, it was luck that the people who are now in the team are really, really experts in what they do. So whenever I have a stupid question, I go and ask them and I get my answer. And that's how I become
And
hopefully
I
smarter.
guess really smart people don't want to be micromanaged anyway, do they? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, smart people are proud. Most of them, they don't like to be micromanaged. They especially they don't like to be told that this is wrong without any proof. Okay, if you tell this guy that whatever he's delivering it's not good, you need to have an argument, not just I don't like it or I don't think it's okay. You need to come up with a proof. This calculation, for example, shows that the aircraft is not flying at this speed. Okay, so this is how we manage. This is how we manage. But yeah, mm, a lot of people do micromanage, but smart people usually tend to go away from that because they are hard workers, they are dedicated. You don't need to tell them what to do every second.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me ask you about mistakes. I mean, presumably, I mean, you must have made a few mistakes along the way. What would you say has been your worst mistake, and what did you learn from it?
Mm. Maybe my worst mistake was hmm, not changing directions fast enough. Okay, so when
Right.
you go into a business and you put a lot of years in that business in a clear direction on a product, for example, and then you see after 2 3 years that nothing happens with the product, sometimes the good idea is, you know, it's simple. It's not a good product, or it doesn't have a market fit. Nobody wants that product. It happened to me two times in my career, and last time I was very, very stubborn, so I pushed it for 5 years. You know, it didn't work.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
And has that, I mean, that's an interesting point. Has that changed the way you think about risk?
no, I still I don't fear risk. I mean, for us, risk is something that we just jump on it. It's an opportunity. But if we are able to understand fast enough that okay, this is gonna work, this is not gonna work, then we become better entrepreneurs. That's how I feel it. I don't agree, on the other hand, with people who only try for, I don't know, 6 months. I'm trying to build this and to sell this for 6 months. It didn't work. I'm going home, or I'm gonna get employed in a company. So you have to push, but and you have to take this risk, but you have to understand that your product might not be
Mm.
uh, something that people are willing to buy or use or
Mm. The
yeah,
reason I was asking, the reason I was asking is because I think about decision making in two ways. There are things that you do that don't work. We call those mistakes generally.
yeah,
Yeah. But there
yeah,
are also things that you didn't do that you could have done that might have worked. Now, and you never kind of know whether they would or wouldn't unless you do them. So I mean, there's a set of decisions, if you like, that are mistake errors of commission, but there are also a set of errors that are to do with omission, not doing things that you could have done. You know, instead of
yeah.
working on this for 5 years, you could have done something else. I mean, how do you balance those sorts of that sort of thinking out?
You don't, you cannot balance them because I someone told me, a good friend from Silicon Valley told me many, many years ago, when you're building your business, when you're building your product, especially when you're fresh, okay, you just started in the entrepreneurial path, uh, it's a process that you cannot bypass. Even if you get an investor, even if you get an early client, this process is basically you growing up as an entrepreneur and understanding how life works in this scenario. So you cannot balance, okay, do this, don't do that. It's mostly, I've seen people with degrees in business management, and theory is one, and this business management helps you, for example, if you're running a bank or if you're running an automotive company. But if you if you're building a startup and you see these stupid questions like where do you see yourself in 5 years, it's like, I don't know if this is going to work. This is ridiculous. I mean, what kind of questions are they? So um, normally it's a process. It's a process. You have to be a little patient to understand that all these things are going to train you or are going to make you better
I mean,
in the next.
I think your point about patience is well made. I mean, you know, that is definitely something that you learn as an entrepreneur. And I think the other point that you've made that's really is long-term planning doesn't really work. I mean, if COVID didn't teach people that, I mean, it didn't teach them anything, did it? You know, I mean,
Yeah,
nobody predicted COVID was going to come along and shut the global economy down. You know, so lots of
yeah.
people had 5-year plans. None of them had COVID factored in. So that just tells you what it tells you about that, doesn't it? Let me ask you about a couple of other things on decision making. What do you do? I mean, given the way you work and you've got, you know, relatively autonomous teams, they're full of super bright people. I mean, how do you handle making decisions that might make you unpopular?
Hmm. Uh, I'm not really sure if I handle them properly or not. I just have my own way, and the decisions are like I said, I trust people
Hmm.
a lot, and I give them all the benefits, until they do something wrong. And then this is the only thing that makes me maybe unpopular when I tell you, okay, we're not gonna work together. But then things like, okay, today we're gonna do this, tomorrow we're gonna do that product, or we need to prepare for an event, we need to go to an exhibition, etc. And you have deadlines. That's the kind of thing that I'm trying to enforce on my team, the fact that you have the freedom to decide what to do, when to do for this particular event, for example. And I just tell you, okay, the event is in November. We need to be ready by mid-September, and then it's up to you to prepare this. So that's one way of dealing with this, like changing their focus from one thing to another. This is something that makes you a little bit unpopular, um, especially in the engineering and the mechanical engineer, because there's a lot of attention, there's a lot of work, and then you just tell them, forget that part. I want you to quickly design this.
Yeah, that's going to piss people off, isn't it? Yeah, I get
Yeah,
that. I get that.
yeah.
And as you've grown as an entrepreneur, would you say that how you define a good decision or good decision making, would you say that that's changed as you've matured as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it changed a bit, but in the end, I would say we learn a lot. Okay, every day from these decisions, some are good, some are bad. We learn a lot, and then next time, it's okay to make mistakes, but it's important that we learn a little bit and we try not to repeat them. Um,
And how,
that's how
that's
I
an
move forward.
interesting. I mean, that's a really interesting point about trying not to repeat them. I mean, I always try not to repeat stupid things, and it hasn't always been successful. But how do you, as it were, build that memory into the business? How do you? I mean, it's one thing to get you not to repeat a mistake, but how do you get everyone in the business not to repeat a mistake? Because that's a bit more of a
Mm.
challenge, I would have thought.
Yeah, yeah. I will give you an example that what we are trying to do now. We're trying to get a certification. And for that certification, we need to go and respect a procedure that we ourselves design. Okay. We said, okay, first thing that you do when you go to the office is to do this, and to do whatever documentation, respect some routine, some workflow. And this is something difficult, like even for us as a team, because we are super nimble and agile. But when it comes to implementing things and putting everybody to do something or not to repeat that mistake, like why didn't you log or change the status of this file, for example, from to do to in progress? Okay, these are things that it's a habit. We are creatures of habit, so it's a little bit difficult to enforce a change.
Mm.
I know this from when I was doing in the past digital transformation for different companies, and you make a nice plan, it looks super good. You go in a company with 6,000 employees, and everything dies. So because we are creatures of habit, and it's super difficult, I don't consider myself yet successful with this in all scenarios. But um, what I've learned is, if you try to explain that person in their own way, like talking in their own language, you're a software engineer, you're a mechanical engineer, whatever. If I explain the steps, I simplify everything for you to understand what to do and what not to do, I think I've done a good job in helping them. But you still need to be careful for some time. Like I said, it's a habit. it's difficult for us to get out of this habit and do something new.
One last question about decision making. And what would you say has cost you the most money? Bad decisions or delayed decisions?
I would say delayed, because bad decisions are part of the process. Again, it's, something is right, something is wrong, you correct and move on. The faster you do this cycle, the better for your business. If you delay everything, this is worse than making a simple mistake, like, okay, we made this product green instead of red, for example. Okay, this is something that you can correct immediately. You test it, you correct it. But if you delay any decision, you're not moving at all. That's how I see
it. Yeah. And if you're trying to make progress really fast, I mean, that is a killer, isn't it? And what would I'm just, in terms of, you must have had lots of advice from people in the past. I mean, what's the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
Exactly the delay part. Wait, you're not ready. Wait, you don't have the money. Wait, you don't have the team, and so on. So this is actually the worst advice.
I mean, I think that's a well-made point. You've got to get on with things, because if you don't get on with them, you don't make any progress. You don't learn anything. I mean, and I think that's one of the things I like about entrepreneurs, is that they're actually very good at figuring out when they've done something wrong and correcting, course correcting.
Yeah.
That isn't the case in other parts, in government or whatever. They never admit they've ever done anything wrong. Whereas entrepreneurs are very quick to work out if something's not going the right way and then do something about it. And that's what makes them interesting to work with. If you were starting from scratch, is there anything you'd do differently?
I would definitely try to move even faster.
Right.
That's it. I would be way faster than I was, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years ago. I'm happy with the speed that we have now at Kalkan. And I think this is the way how we should go in the future. But, somewhere back in my head, I still think we can accelerate a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, every entrepreneur I've ever met always wants to do things faster. I mean, it's not always possible, but they always want to. And if you were to give one last question, if you were to give a bit of advice to a rookie CEO that's dealing with a crisis, what would it be?
Dealing with the crisis, I would say take a step back and try to see like a general, on the battlefield. Take a high view, understand a little bit what happens, and see. I would usually seek help. When I mean seek help, is someone that you trust from the team, who might be smarter than you and see things differently. This is the kind of help that you need. And most of the times, what you consider a crisis is something that someone in the team can solve easier. Okay. Of course, it depends on the scenario, but this is how I see
it. Yeah. Good advice, I think. Yeah, go to somebody that knows what they're doing, is what you're saying, isn't it? I mean, I think that's pretty good advice to anyone, really. I mean, the opposite can't be true, is it? Go to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. So I think it's a great piece of advice, and thank you for sharing that story. I mean, I think it's a brilliant project that you're working on, and
Thank you.
I love the ambition, and I'm a supporter of NATO, and I'm a supporter of Europe. So I mean, it'd be good if this can help help protect Europe and help protect NATO. I mean, I think what you're doing, I mean, it's a tough gig you've taken on, but good luck with it, because I think it's really, really valuable. So thank you for taking a bit of time to come and have a chat with us.
Thank you.
All right. See you soon.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.